Today I will make a video about something very interesting: body, mind, spirit, consciousness, past life, soul, and the cosmic connections we have, and the different species. I think this is something about the creation which we perceive and we think, we try to understand, and within our the framework we are living in. This is not about other species on in the universe. First of all, we are trying to understand our own life. We are trying to understand the mystery of. We are not sure about past life. I mean, we say that there is past life, but how do we understand this more logically? So I've done some analysis, and I thought I will share this analysis which I've done. I just did this analysis 10 minutes back, spent about an hour to do this analysis, and I thought I will share with you. So it will be a little random because I'm going to share what I analyzed. So one thing we know, we are a body, and people say we are not a body, we are soul. Now if somebody says that we are a soul, has that person really understood what is soul, and why do we say we are a soul and we are not a body? Then we also say the body is mortal. So I will make some statements which we all know, just to have all the points put together. Soul is mortal, and soul is immortal, and the body is mortal. The body is perishable. So, and the body is a physical form. Body is in physical form, and soul is formless. Soul, why we say formless? Anything which we cannot perceive and we think it is there, then we call it formless. So we use words which can become very confusing to really understand what we are talking about. So now assume, let's not use the word formless. We say there are two parts in us. There are two parts. One is soul. So we are calling something soul. Don't try to get stuck with this word soul. Or we can say consciousness. Now we just don't know what is consciousness, and we just don't know what is soul. So I'm going to explain. We try to analyze this, what exactly is soul. So I will talk about that, and while analyzing this, I will talk about past birth and law of karma, how the past birth happens and how the karmas are redeemed. So I'm talking about possibilities. I'm not saying that what I've analyzed may be 100% correct, but I'm trying to do some logical analysis and sequencing of the events which might be happening in running this creation. Not the whole universe, but I'm talking about the species which, at least this planet, so that at least we can understand our own human life or the life cycle on this planet, including other life forms, which must be the integral part of the journey of the soul. So the body and soul, again I said the body is a manifestation of 5 elements. So 5 elements is why we say 5 elements, because they are kind of in a physical form, perceivable 5 elements. We consider them to be a building block, because anything has to be made, it will have some components. And what is the basic component at the basic level? Basic level is subatomic, which we say now we are trying to study the quantum level. But if I don't go into subatomic level, then I will now say there are basic elements through which the composition happens. So we are all a composition, and different composition is using the same elements, different combination, different ratio. We create different life forms on this planet. Okay. So if this is agreeable, so we understand what the body is. So body is like probably a machine. So you create a device through material science, through the basic building blocks, can be 5 elements, and then you create something which has got a certain purpose, design, and it has got a certain purpose, that it is supposed to be able to do so and so things. Like an animal has some capability, and plants have some capability, and humans have some capability. So every species will have some capability, which probably we may not be aware of every species capability. We seem to be aware, but we may not be aware. So let's not try to be too wise or too knowledgeable about species, assuming that it may not be possible to know about them. We may not be able to perceive even. So we are not able to perceive about our own species. So why to comment and make statements as a last word, that we are the last word about all the species. So we really don't know how the birds communicate. I mean, we can say they communicate, but we don't know the language they speak in, generally speaking. So, or how the plants are communicating. We can do experiments, but we don't know what language, what kind of language is there, is it, are they talking in terms of machine language, how the entire communication is happening. So there is telepathy also, and I have some great examples of telepathy which I have experienced. So let's not get into those. So the body is created, a machine is made. Now any physical form which has been created, which can be dynamic and non-dynamic, because there is so much around us. Something which moves, we say it's got life. Something doesn't move, doesn't grow, we say it doesn't have life. Even a mountain grows. We have young fold mountain, old fold mountains. So even the mountain is growing, earth is growing. So I think, but we call them non-living. So if something is non-living, it will not grow, it will not decay. So when there is a change in any physical form, definitely. So what is life? So life is the physical form will start changing and all start acting based on its design and the ability which has been infused in it. But to make that happen, it needs power. It needs to be powered. It has to be provided that energy to do those actions. See, like humans can walk, can run. We cannot fly. We don't have that capability. But to run and walk, to talk, to do any action, we need some energy. If you talk a lot whole day, you'll become tired. If you run a lot, you will get tired. So we have our own endurances. Limits have been defined for every body, and there will be a wide range of limitations which we can explore and exploit and improve, and we can decrease it, increase it. So we have certain capabilities in a given range. That's the design of the human, and so to be able to do those functions, we need energy. And if I talk about human, one is we need energy, and one is that we also have ability to think what we are doing is right or wrong. Now, why do we need this ability to think that what is right and wrong, what is good and bad? Because let's not talk about other species. Do they have this ability? Let's focus on human only. First, let's understand humans. Forget about other species on this planet, because that's another level of analysis which might be needed. So if you try to understand our own self, so we have the ability to decide good and bad. Now what is that we? Or if I say I have the ability, does that mean that this body has the ability? There is a brain. Brain is processing all the inputs coming from the sensory organs, and it is creating thoughts and actions later on. I mean, thoughts can also lead to actions. So thought is also an action. So it's an outcome of the input coming to the brain. And we say every thought and action will have a equal and opposite reaction, because these are all energy conversions. So when we see something, the input goes to the brain, it's an electric signal going to the brain, and brain will process this based on the programming, and it will give an output. Now the output what we get, we also have a ability to decide whether it is correct or not. So we have been given that ability to correct or decide what we are doing is right and wrong. That's different, that we also have the ability to overrule it and ignore it and do what we are not supposed to do. So we are created on this planet with a purpose, and if we know the purpose, if we become clear about the purpose, if we know how to perform, how to act, so we have a choice. We can act what we've been made to act, or we may not act what we have been made to act. So accordingly, whatever we do, we'll have redemptions, we'll have results which will be redeemed to us in actions and in form of events in our life. So what will happen? The brain is mechanically processing. It's like a device which is mechanically processing. The brain or the body is immune to the outcomes. In the way we feel sad, the body doesn't feel sad, the brain doesn't feel sad. So this machinery will not feel sad or happy. That feeling of happiness and sadness will be what we call as mind. Okay, but mind is also not physical, because mind, we don't perceive mind as a physical thing, but there is something which makes us feel good and bad. Now this physical thing cannot feel good and bad. For what is that element in us which makes us feel good and bad? And if we detach, if we don't produce thoughts, if we don't react, then the redemptions are very positive. So when we don't react, what is happening? When we don't react, we are actually conserving that energy which is produced. So there is a positive outcome which is produced. And if we are selflessly doing karma or job, so there is no negative outcome. There is no desire. And when it is selfless, there is no desire. When there is no desire, so nothing will manifest, because when there is no desire, so that signal which is come, we are basically conserving the energy. We are not reacting to the inputs. So when you develop the ability, when you evolve, when you understand the purpose of life, when you learn not to act unnecessarily, so there is, what we are doing is we are doing something which we need to do, and we are also doing a lot of things which we don't need to do. So when we stop that not need to do, so we are only doing what we need to do, and without any expectation of a desire. So what we are doing, the outcome which is coming from every action is basically the energy which is getting produced after that action. The redemption of that action is the energy which has been conserved, it's been given back to us. We are having some positive energy which is getting accumulated now. So what happens is we are raising the energy level, our energy level. We are accumulating good karmas, we say literally, emotionally, but we are accumulating some positive energy, and with that accumulation the aura changes. And as we say about some realized souls, that they have a strong energy field which can transform you. So they are creating a very strong aura, strong magnetic field, positive field, very strong positive vibration which will affect the surroundings. The bigger it grows, the more the man evolves, person evolves. So this is energy accumulation. And I spoke about the feelings. If you are attached, if you have desires, then you will have those feelings. You will feel good and bad. If you are hurt physically, you will feel the pain, and if you are detached from the body, you will not feel the pain. So it is about realizing that what is body, what is the soul. So we are a combination of both in this physical world, but one thing is mortal, one thing is immortal. So mortal, we should not worry about what is mortal, because that's a form, and we come into a form for a certain period of time. So we will understand, when we understand the law of karma and the law of action, why we come into a form and why different forms, and till the time we don't get released from this continuation of forms. So if we understand, we'll understand why there is a form for a period of time, and why will we take another form. That means there is birth and past birth and reincarnation. So in short, we'll say there is a reincarnation. So the theory of reincarnation can be kind of proved in this way, which I'm trying to tell what I have analyzed. So if the body does not feel anything good and bad because it is physical, so there has to be something which feels, and that cannot be, it may be physical which we cannot see, or it may not be physical, because what we cannot see God. So we say God is formless. So within our definition, what we cannot see, we say that it is formless. If there is life, if there are extraterrestrial whom we cannot see or whom we have not seen, then we say they may exist, they may not exist, even if, because we just don't know, we cannot perceive that. So we are restricting our discussion to something which is there in the body, which is having all the feelings. Let's not call it mind, let's not call it soul. There is something. Now what is that something doing? Why is that something feeling what we go through? Ups and downs, we feel all these good and bad. We feel everything because we feel the outcome of our actions. We feel the redemptions of our thoughts and actions. From the thoughts and actions, whatever redemptions are being, reactions have been coming out, that we are able to perceive. Now what is that which perceives? So there is something which is perceiving all this, not the body. So every action is getting recorded in that being. Every action is getting recorded, and every redemption is also getting recorded. It's happening, and as we are thinking and acting, the next outcomes, the next redemptions are also getting recorded. So it is not just the redemption which is getting recorded, because that redemption has to be redeemed also, and that redemption has to be redeemed at some point of time, and how that redemption has been decided, when it will happen, what will be the duration of the redemption, what will be the intensity of the redemption. Like suppose you may get a stomach pain because you did something, you will be awarded a stomach pain. So when will that stomach pain happen? What will be the duration? What will be the intensity? So what is that intensity? Who feels that intensity? Does the body feel it? No. So if something happens in some body, where is the feeling which is coming? So you can say mind, but you can't perceive mind. So we will say that something, not the body, is feeling it. So that something is also recording, because it cannot be recorded in the body, because body will perish. So something which will perish, it will not be recorded in that. So there is this other thing which is immortal is having also a capability of recording. Okay, so there is something which is designed to record. Okay, and there is something which is also designed to feel good and bad, so that the redemptions can happen. Otherwise body has got no meaning. So there is whatever is happening in a life and what is going to happen in a life, the ability to decide good and bad, to change how the brain processes, to change the way we operate. So all that intelligence, capability is actually given in something else. It cannot be there in the body. But using this, we use the body to achieve what as a combined entity we are supposed to achieve in this life. Okay, so now if you understood, I think this makes it clear that how we are two independent things, beings, acting as a single entity when we come in this form. So we are an entity which appears to be something, but there are actually two parts to it. One is mortal, one is immortal. So now we are discussing immortal. So this immortal thing is also recording, and immortal thing is also having the program which is continuously calculating or calculating, basically deciding, processing that for each action and thought, what is the outcome, what is the intensity, when it will happen, how it will happen, and which life form it should happen, or should it happen in this life, can it happen in this life. So I think we are constantly processing. There is a constant processing happening because we are constantly thinking, we are constantly acting. So there is a constant processing happening of a life. There's a constant performance monitoring happening, and there's a constant reward being prepared, calculated, decided, and constantly it has been updated for the time of implementation and the duration of implementation and the intensity of implementation of that reward. Okay, so this is constantly happening. It will keep on happening because we are, and all that time of implementation, duration, intensity may be fixed, but the time of the sequencing of redemption will keep on updating, because as we do more actions, so we are creating more redemptions. So if we are not selfless, if we are not desire free, we'll continue to create actions and continue to create redemptions. So as you accumulate redemption, you will have to be in this physical form till the time you don't redeem those. And if you continue to create more, this cycle will never end, and you have to keep hanging in some physical form on this planet. That liberation will not happen. Liberation will only happen when you use that intelligence to understand the purpose of human being and to be selfless and desire free. And when you do that, then you get free from this redemption and you start accumulating that energy. So this I have made very clear. Now there's a possibility. Now what is that being? That being is something which is immortal, because it moves from this body to another body. Why it moves from another body? Because it may not be possible, if you see, to have all the redemptions in this life and in this life form. Maybe some redemptions may happen that you have to become an insect. Suppose I killed 10 insects or 100 insects in my life. So probably my redemption may be that he becomes an insect 100 times and he will be killed 100 times. Like today I killed 2 insects, 2 mosquitoes. So probably I'll become a mosquito and I'll be, same way I'll be smashed by somebody else. So that may be one redemption. So I'll have to become mosquito 100 times. If I have troubled some cat, I harassed some bird, or if I have shot one bird with an air gun. I did once or twice, I think, in my life, because somebody bought an air gun. And generally people assume that if you have an air gun, you have to shoot birds. So somebody said, shoot that bird. And we were like, stupid. I shot 2 birds probably. So probably next birth I'll become a sparrow twice, and then somebody will shoot me and I'll be redeemed. Probably. I'm just guessing. I'm no one to decide what will be the redemption, but something of that may happen. So I'll have to become a sparrow twice. I may have to become a giraffe once, or I may have to become a pig, or whatever it is. So these redemptions will be decided. And now imagine, so because these redemptions may not be possible to give in this birth, I'm presuming like kind of some logic, because if your time has come in this life and you've been given a chance to learn, but you've not learned, and then your machine decides that this birth is not possible to liberate, so let him first redeem all these. He's accumulated so many redemptions that now it's time to get over those redemptions, and then let him come again in this human form, and then try to learn, evolve, and liberate. So the next chance will come. So this is like a game. A lot of people have this theory that we are in a stimulation, we are in a simulation, or not stimulation, we are in a simulation. It's like a simulation is what we are like in a game. So you can call it a game. So people also say it's an illusion. So it's an illusion. And I made a video that this whole creation is an imagination, because when we create something, we imagine before that. You don't create something without any imagination. So when you imagine some product, so you try to conceptualize it and then you try to create it. So you invent something. Invention is happening. The initial trigger is in imagination. So when you imagine something, then only you can create that. So and the mind has immense power to create anything, but how much we can imagine and what kind of urge we have to create, that depends. So this gives some idea about reincarnation, and it also gives some clarity that we are in two parts. One is this physical thing which we can see, which is basically very, very mechanical, and it doesn't store anything. Whatever is stored and whatever is being processed about the whole life is actually happening somewhere else. It's not happening in the brain. Brain is only processing the signal. Brain is CPU of this machine, but brain is limited to this body and it will finish with this body. Whatever is happening in the brain is happening in the brain only in this body, and when the body collapses, the brain also collapses. So it goes with the brain. So brain is, so this is a transient. This is transient means this is mortal. So we are, this part is only doing transient actions. So whatever capability the brain has is doing a transient action. So brain is like a robot. Instructions are coming from somewhere else to change the way brain works. So that is, we call it intelligence to decide we do good and bad. The choice we have to make. That's somewhere else. Okay. So that somewhere else, you can call it soul. But if you say soul, consciousness, how do you feel? You just cannot imagine what is that. So what you can imagine is that it is something which is very uniform for all the humans, for all the beings. So that must be similar, irrespective of the species, because species is based on the form. But what is immortal, which is formless, will be probably same, identical, and that has got energy because it is processing, recording, doing some complex calculation about the soul journey, and based on that everything else is happening, that we take a life form, which life form, when this redemption will happen, and how these updates happen. So if you now look at the scale, so if there is a table of, we create one table number 1, where we list down all the thoughts and actions which a human can possibly do or produce. So nobody must have really thought of that. If you can try, imagine we create a what gets clone of a human. Suppose you want to make a robot. If you want to design a robot, so first thing is what all human can. Imagine you create a human. So imagine what all thoughts and actions can a human do. So has anybody bothered to list that out? So if you look at AI, suppose if you're trying to do AI, so AI should do that. So if you list down all the thoughts and actions, they can be probably 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 or 1 million. Who knows? Nobody's tried to do that. So suppose you say there are 10,000 thoughts and actions which you can think of a human will have. Just for example, I'm giving an example to just explain you the complexity of the whole thing. How complex is this? And for each thought and action which I've told, there is a redemption given. And based on the intensity of thought and action, the redemption will also have a duration and intensity. So same thing, like I can be a mosquito for 10 days or I can be a mosquito for 3 days, and I will be, the intensity of pain inflicted on me will be stronger or less. What kind of, how will I die? So all that will be probably defined based on the intensity of the thought and action. So one table we write thought and action, second table we write all the redemptions. Then we match. So try to logically match that this redemption must be the outcome of this action, this thought. This redemption must be an outcome. We do this, we have those things, matchmaking, different subjects that matched this column B with column B. So you can do some matchmaking. Like we have a god Chandragupta, Chitragupta. In fact, I belong to that community, and he's our god. They say that the community which I belong to, Kayas, we worship Lord Chitragupta, who is the bookkeeper of all the karmas, deeds, and he's basically doing all these calculations that which human will get what redemption for each karma for each human. So see the scale he must be managing. So now I'm talking about the scale. So second table we write all the redemption, we try to match. If we can do that, we'll get some understanding that what karma will do what. It will make us get some awareness. Now imagine the third thing, complicated thing, which the immortal thing which is doing probably is also continuously calculating when will that redemption can be made to happen. When can that be redeemed, and what duration it should be there, what intensity it should be there. So it is also doing that kind of calculation, and it is then sequencing all the redemptions according to some logic which will be based. There will be algorithm which will be continuously doing this. So there is science behind this. So we say law of karma, or law of nature, law of universe, a law of creation, law of existence, law of performance. So this kind of software is probably running, and this software is continuously creating that. So this is already embedded. This intelligence, this processing is happening here, because this processing cannot die. It could have died if it was had to be redeemed in this life itself. But if it cannot be redeemed in this life, then it cannot be stored here. It has to be stored probably in the soul, in the immortal thing. And if it has to be stored in the immortal thing, then that immortal thing, we have no idea. We cannot perceive it. What form and how it is doing it, that's beyond us. But definitely there is some intelligence which is not in the physical form which we can see, which is there, which we say soul or consciousness. So we are that, and we are not just the body, but we are a combination of these two. But that is immortal, that will move from form to form. Okay. Now, so this is also energy. This being, the immortal being, is uniform, should be uniform for all the beings, all the species, because the purpose for which it is operating should be common for all, for all the species who are living on this planet. Okay, why should we say it only human? Why not others? Should be there for others. We don't have to go into the depth of why and how, but let's restrict ourselves to only understanding that it is doing for us, and others how, that we don't know, but it is common. It should be common. Now that's what we say is the universal commonality, that we are all same. From that perspective, from the perspective of immortality, the perspective of immortality of existence, from the perspective of what we call consciousness of soul or oneness of this universe, if we assume this, all the physical forms are only the manifestation of material science of the 5 elements, then which is transient, and from that perspective, what we are is something else which is immortal. So that's why we say that is immortal, and that is something beyond our comprehension, and that must be connected to the main source of energy, because this has to be energy. This has to be maybe some photon, some quantum being, so where at atomic level, which is non-perceivable, non-perceivable. It may be physical, but not, because we cannot define it. We cannot imagine what it is. Whatever we see, we say physical. What we don't see, we just don't know what it can be. We don't know the other dimensions, what dimension it must be in. We are in a certain dimension probably, and we don't know other dimensions. So we also have something which is in some other dimension, and we don't know. So when we liberate from this karma, law of karma, when we liberate from this desires and expectation, and we accumulate the energy, So probably at some point of time we'll get liberated from, and we won't be required to be born again into another life form, and then we will probably get elevated to some other dimension, and then we'll exist in some other dimension, and there'll be some different theory to operate and exist in that dimension, and there'll be many higher dimensions. And this has been kind of postulated by many scientists, many thinkers and philosophers, that there are higher dimensions. It is there in our ancient wisdom, philosophies, and scriptures and different religions. So we don't see it scientifically, we see it very emotionally, but we don't try to analyze it logically. So we may go to the next dimension now, and this must be all this being the ultimate, this is the ultimate being of our existence. If I say this immortal soul, which will probably move from dimension to dimension, so if this is immortal, then obviously it is connected to some common source, and that common source will be the main source of this universe, which is the owner of all the dimensions in this universe. You can say multiverse, billions of galaxies, or you can call it multiverse because it is different dimensions. Possibly, like there is always a possibility that we move to the other dimension. But see, it doesn't matter if I say there are more dimensions. How does it matter to us at this point of time? What matters to us is that I should be living happily. I should be understanding how do I get liberated, assuming this theory, and what I am supposed to do. It's all about being happy. It's all about being content, not even happy from this physical happenings, but from a state of no desire and no expectation and no ego. So be selfless. Selfless and no desire is the core. And if this will happen, then only the ego will go away, and only then the expectations will go away. And if we perform selflessly, so that is the focus. Our intellect we use our intellect of the soul, so that the body operates like that, and we accumulate that energy, and then we get liberated from this constantly form. So they also say that after this, when we leave this form, this body, when we have to redeem, so they say the souls are searching for next form. So probably now they have been told you are supposed to take this form, so find out. So there is a queue to get into that form. There will be a queue because the process of procreation is also defined. So procreation, you cannot just pop up like a mosquito. So you will only become a mosquito when there is a procreation. So the souls are actually queued for procreation, or through procreation, to come back into that form and get redeemed, leave that form, go into the next, come into the form, and ultimately maybe human form for liberation, if we assume that. So finally come back to the human form, because if suppose your redemptions need you to go through many different species, so you will have to go through those species and then finally take the human form, assuming that human form only gives liberation, because we don't know whether the intelligence is being used in other animals also, but probably may not be, but they have to go through that form, and so come back to the, so there is a queue to even take a form for the soul. So they say the soul is actually looking for parents where to come, or they are queued. So there must be a sequence of procreation also, and the soul is put into a queue. Now are they on their own trying to enter, or they are provided that also? So that queue, how the queue operates, that we don't know. So this is like reincarnation. This is some kind of understanding about souls and the body and karma and our creation in this particular dimension, and how we can perceive and what we cannot perceive. So I thought I did think something more, but I don't really remember what else was there. I had kind of deduced from this analysis, but I think I will stop here, otherwise I'll be taking a lot of time trying to even just remember what all I thought. So I think I've tried to make this clear. Probably I'll see if I missed out something, I will make another video to just cover that up. about this creation and law of karma and the differentiation between soul and this body. So if you really see, it's also scientific, and we will change forms. So we get attached to somebody, relationships. So we have devised a system of existence using our intelligence. We decided a system of community living on this planet, and so there is, because obviously we have that intelligence. So we also create different forms. We create many gadgets, we create relationships, we create emotions, we do something which we are not supposed to do. So we create complications. So we are good in creating complications. So we go through these complexities in these forms of life, and we get redeemed, and if we evolve, we reduce the complexity, we simplify, and we evolve, and we are able to liberate, or we keep traveling from life after life, and the soul keeps moving. Yeah, this one point which I forgot. So like the soul is recording, or maybe the soul is not recording. Maybe our soul is not recording what is there for us. If you look at today, if you look how internet is working, like there are, in this telecom parlance now, you have devices which are intelligent devices, endpoint devices, which are more intelligent. They are doing a lot of processing. So we are like endpoint devices. Earlier, the endpoint devices, those tower transmitters were not processing. All the processing was happening in the core network. So these are all different methodologies of processing. So there's the possibility that our soul is only having that intelligence to do all the processing for that particular soul, or it can also be replicated or also just recorded somewhere in the data center in the universe. So there might be some data center, what we call black hole, maybe a data center. So you don't know, the galaxy has black holes, so there must be a black hole data center for couple of solar systems, and which are recording all the records of all the life forms, of each and every life form which is existing, and it's doing all the processing over there, and all the only the end action is coming here, which is getting recorded here for acting on that form. So all possibilities there. So we are some connected to some unknown, but it's energy, because definitely it is energy. Energy is only transforming through what medium, through which spectrum, that we don't know. So how this soul, so we can't perceive that. Maybe intentionally we have not been made to perceive this, because then we will probably able to meddle with it. So we have not been given that ability to perceive certain things which should remain beyond us. So when somebody has designed us, he has decided what we can perceive, what we can meddle with, what is our limitation, what are the capabilities we have been given, so that we can reach that purpose. So it's a game of matrix. We are in a matrix, we are in a game, and we are in a cycle of evolution. So this is a creation, and that's why it's wonderfully put. If you really think, this is a creation of imagination, and in Hindu scriptures they say Brahma imagined a creation, and so whatever he imagines is getting created, and he has created a science behind it, that how this creation will occur. So probably this is just an imagination, there's nothing actually, and if there is nothing, so this is what is awareness. Now we say awareness, we are nothing, we are awareness. So what is to be aware of? Aware of the whole thing is imagination, the whole thing is confusion and illusion actually. So this whole thing is a game. We may be, and I just saw somewhere, somebody said we are in a simulation. We are actually living in a simulation. You can call it simulation, you can call it imagination. So we are all trying to actually reach there only. So what the scripture said, that Brahma created it, Brahma imagined. He's created this Srishti, and he came out from Vishnu. So we don't know the source, but there has to be a source, Source has to be there. Now source, how the source is created, how does it matter? Because if we can see the source, what will happen? Suppose you see God, what will happen? What will you do? If you come to know, if you see the source, what will happen? Nothing will change. You will still remain a human. Or will you get liberated if you see the soul? Can you change anything in this creation? Are you there? Are you empowered enough to change that? Right now we don't know. So let's focus on be happy. Let's focus on be selfless. Let's focus on being loving, and let's focus on being desire free. Let's focus on being human. That is what we should do in this game, and if we can stick to that, we will not get derailed. The train will move on the track. Okay, thanks.